Welcome to A Rare Reality, a podcast powered by Jordan's Guardian Angels. I'm Christina Janes, Director of Outreach and Content Development for JGA and the host of this podcast. And we are so excited because it's so fun to tell these family stories. And today, Nils Marchand is with us to talk about your beautiful family and your experience here at JGA. And we don't get a lot of dads here on A Rare Reality, so thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
It's great. This is going to be a fun conversation because as I said before, we've tried to dedicate this season of A Rare Reality to telling our JGA family stories. And what a great way to get this ball rolling too. We had Ashley Lytle on last week talking about her story, and to have you guys on this week and have you talk about your family, I think it's awesome. So let's start at the beginning. Will you tell us about your wonderful kids and your beautiful wife, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we live in Austin. My wife Julie and I have two boys. Louis is our oldest. He's 9, and Ollie is 6, somewhere around there, round up
Yeah.
or down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are so fortunate to have the JGA community having helped and helping kind of shepherd us through this journey that we are all on together.
Yeah.
And Ollie, to go back a little bit, if you want to know kind of the
Yeah.
origin story.
Yeah, let's get back
Uh,
into the backstory because I know that when we met you guys, you had been like you just gotten your diagnosis. So let's go back to the diagnosis and really to the beginning with Ollie.
Yeah, and when we met, it was I think April of 19. Is that right? In San Francisco. And
Yep.
if you rewind the clock, so Ollie was born in summer of 17,
Mhm.
and when he was probably 6-ish months old, we started noticing just the classic developmental delays. And as a parent, we'd already had our oldest, who was at the one time 3 years older. Um, I don't think in the moment we really thought much about it,
Mhm.
honestly, at the time. You just kind of notice, and the doctor's like, oh, are they, is he lifting his head? Is he turning around? Is he doing these things that newborns do? And we're like, no, but, everyone moves at different paces and grows at different ages, like all
Yeah.
these things. And so, and he's a Marchand, so he's got a large noggin like me, which makes him a
I'm
little top.
familiar. I get
There you
it,
go.
you know?
And it makes us a little top heavy, like bobblehead dolls,
Yeah.
and so we thought a lot of that just balancing was because of that. And the turning point for us was that we were fortunate to have a nanny who was just incredible, and she noticed what were some very mild seizures that presented themselves as eye flutter. So the eye would just kind of blink a little bit and then would roll back just for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Nothing major, nothing huge, but like definitely non-normal. He was probably, trying to think, he was probably like 8 or 9 months old at
Yeah.
that point when that started happening. And obviously we took him to the doctor. His pediatrician was like, hey, yep, let's like run some standard tests. Thankfully, the pediatrician was pretty quick to refer us to neurology, child neurology.
Yeah.
And so that helped us to go through a lot of tests. Now, like so many parents, what they typically do is they go through the standard test to eliminate lots of things. Is there a brain tumor? Is there like something that is kind of more quote unquote obvious that they
Mhm.
try to eliminate? We ran through all of them. No brain tumors, no cancers, like nothing that was identified. And the neurologist said, "Look, the last thing we can do is to map map your DNA,
Mhm.
ours and his."
Yeah.
And so fast forward several months after that, and I think it was probably February when we get a phone call to come into the neurologist's office. And the neurologist is just such an empathetic, caring person. And to be in child neurology as a profession, cannot be an easy profession. And
No.
so I'm so grateful for, people that embark on that journey because we turn to them for answers. And sometimes, unfortunately, they don't have the answers. And so when we got in, our neurologist, Ollie's neurologist, said to us, look, he has a rare genetic deformity in one of the genes.
Yeah.
Here's the gene, it's PPP2R5D.
Mhm.
I know it now. I couldn't remember the letters then. There was nothing at the time. There was so little. And he said, I found this Facebook group. and it was Jordan's Guardian Angels. And that was an immediate connection to a community, that even if the community didn't always have the answers, you
Yeah.
didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
And I think so often when, at the time, I think Ollie was around 80 or so diagnosis count.
Hmm.
It's not a lot globally,
No,
but it
no.
was more than one. It was more than one. And it felt very much like it was just us. And then all of a sudden, we instantly had this connection to a broader community.
Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing to be able to walk into that community and feel like, okay, everybody's on the same, there's different variations here, but we're all on a pretty even playing field in terms of knowledge. We're growing together, we're experiencing things together. Thank goodness for this community. I mean, we interviewed another mom who, in a completely different community, who was said, I was me and one other family, but I was so happy to have that other family. I didn't even know what to do. I mean, it's you guys were diagnosed at a time too where you got your diagnosis, you found the Facebook group, which is honestly wild that a doctor said, "Here's a Facebook group." Thank goodness for it, but it's kind of wild that that's the case.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
But then on the heels of that, then everybody was getting together in San Francisco. So it was sort of like bang bang bang, here you go. What was that experience like for you guys?
It was certainly deer in headlights.
Yeah.
We had lived in San Francisco, so part of us was like, "Yeah, we're going back to San Francisco." Like we had no idea. Again, because Ollie at the time was, by this point he was little over a year and a half,
Mhm.
and so we weren't sure what we still don't know exactly what his outcome will look like.
Yeah.
And so we were, fortunate to see and talk to so many parents and other kids and researchers and the Jordan's Guard, the JGA staff, and the sense of immediate community and caring. I think what I've found, that a few things in my journey here, is that like different people reach different stages of comfort with communicating about their own feelings,
Yeah.
communicating about their fears, like all of these things. Some people hold it inside, some people really talk about it pretty openly. And so what's nice is that we were able to kind of find folks that were in similar boats. Because actually, funny, Julie and I are very different in that way. Like, I feel like I need to communicate it out. And I think she's generally a little bit more internal
Mhm.
with some of those things. So it was very helpful to find commonalities amongst the parents, connect Ollie with other kids, find kids that are even local in Texas, right? I think at the time there were 3 families in Texas,
Yeah.
which is really nice as well.
Well, it's wonderful. I just have this vision, and I said this to you before we started recording too, of you guys coming into this event, and there's all these people there, and there's all these experts, and there's all this stuff, and Julie's just crying. I mean, poor thing was just like you could just see it was like overload to the max. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better because now, as much as we have drowned you in information and people and stuff, it's gonna get better now. Like this is up because you're here. I mean, I was hoping that was sort of the takeaway from it in the end. And it wasn't just like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was, for me, like I like having a lot of information.
Yeah.
And so that like flood of information was a lot. And for me, it was helpful to like hear it. And I think, I've talked about this before. There were 2 things that were said on our day of diagnosis. One by our neurologist and one actually by Julie.
Mhm.
And usually I start to cry at this moment, so I'll try and hold it together. But the first, and I think this is really important, the neurologist looked at Julie and I and said, even with this diagnosis, your job as a parent has not actually changed at all.
Mhm.
And he said, your job as a parent is to help your kid reach their full potential.
Mhm.
And I go back to that all the time
Mhm.
because you can have a completely on paper healthy child, and that's how you don't know what their potential is.
Mhm.
And you can have a kid with Jordans or something else, and you don't know what their potential is. And all we can do is advocate for them continuously, especially when they can't yet do it themselves. and just put them in a position to where they can reach their full potential. That was the first thing that really stuck with me. And then the second, which was, like as soon as that happened, it was like everything went dark, and it was Ollie and Julie kind of on the bench to my left, and she looked at him and just said to him, he didn't understand, right? But
Yeah.
she looked at him and said, "My expectations for you have not changed."
Yeah. Yep.
And this is where I lose it. I'll now lose it.
Right.
And what's interesting is like our two boys are so different personality
Yeah.
wise. And sometimes I'm like, is this like a Jordan's reaction from him? Or is he just, this is just who he is as a kid?
Right.
And I have to remind myself of that sometimes, that like, no, he's just can be, we all are difficult at times.
Yes.
Myself, like we're all difficult, right? We all find ways to cope. So those are two things that have really helped me
Yeah.
when I find myself a little bit drifting off.
Yeah. I think it's so important. And it's always beautiful to watch all of you together with your children because so often I'm reminded of exactly that. The expectation hasn't changed. We're good. Everything is, we're good. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. And you're incredible. And I'm lucky to be your parent. And here we are. And
Yeah,
it's always so refreshing and really beautiful to watch everyone come together and be doing that same thing at the same time.
yeah.
Um, where is Ollie today? What is his how is he doing?
Yeah, he's doing fantastic.
Good.
One of the things we feel really fortunate to have been able to provide for him is early intervention through therapies. That kid he's got like a rock hard six pack. He has been in OT, PT, speech. I mean, 6 days a week for, I don't know, 4.5, 5 years probably at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes a difference. Like I can't tell you exactly the delta, right? Because you can't compare, but
Right.
I can tell you that from going from we're not sure if he's going to walk or talk, we are so fortunate he's verbal. He is like running now. He's
Yeah.
got hot runs like a
Yeah.
little minion,
Yep.
and he works so hard. I mean, he works so hard, and it's been amazing. And we had him at a speech focused school, kind of a preschool for a few years, which was just also an incredible community because in that environment, those were kids that had speech challenges, but didn't have necessarily other things that they were working through as well. And so it was
Right.
again a different yet similar community where the parents quickly bond over some commonality. And I think that's a really important, that even if you're a parent in an environment where there's no other JGA kids, that's okay. There's likely other parents that
Oh
are
yeah.
dealing with other things that you can kind of be there as a sounding board for. So we made the decision at the beginning of this, well, before the beginning of the school year, to send him into the same public elementary school as his brother
Hmm.
here in Austin. And again, we've been really fortunate. The principal, the school's been fantastic in providing and helping to provide the support that could be needed just to kind of help him along, which has been great. So yeah, it's we don't ever know. I mean, there's such a range
Yeah.
of impact that the kids have. And so right now, for the moment, like we continue to try to just push the needle for what we expect of him, and also give him grace when we know that he gets tired easy.
Yeah.
He can't do lots of the things. He gets frustrated because he sees his peers doing
And he
things,
wants
and
to. Right.
he wants to do those things. And those, I feel like, he is 6.5. Like we're at the point now where the recognition plus the emotion of things he can't do, I think will start to become harder emotionally
Yeah.
for him. And so we have to prepare for ourselves and for him, like, yeah, like these are things you may or may not be able to do. And
Yeah.
good news, you're going to focus on other things that you are good
That you
at and
can
that you
do.
enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, Jordan's syndrome aside, I think that that's something that kids across the world deal with. And,
That's
you
right.
aren't always going to be the best or we struggle with that a lot at our house. or I'm slower than my friends, or those kinds of things, and we're like, that's okay. You
Yeah.
do the best that you can do. And it's a hard message to sell because, they're like, why? Like, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important, and I remind myself of this all the time, is that everybody's capabilities are different. Whether there's Jordan syndrome involved or not, we're still, there's a lot of people fighting those same fights every day to try to, as you said, move the needle, try to just bring it forward just a little bit. But yet I keep saying, you may not be number one all the time, but you're
Yeah.
doing the best that you can do.
That's right. I mean, we were number one all the time, I'm sure. Right.
Sometimes, depending.
Good for you. Good for you.
Right? I know it's one of those, it's just a hard lesson to try to sell. It really is, but I find myself saying these things on repeat on a regular basis. For our families that are, I think that there's varying levels of struggle for our families throughout this JGA community. For those who are listening to today and are hearing this, and they know that, Ollie's doing great, but maybe they're in a period of struggle. What do you want to say to them today? Because I think that message is so important. Everybody hits hurdles. Everybody hits stuff along the roads. So what's your message there?
Oh man, it's a good question. I mean, I would say in the same message, you just talked about, we try and guide our kids, and ultimately I can be proud of mine if they answer the question yes to, did you do your best?
Right.
Like, did you do your best? And sometimes, sorry, I'm getting emotional again. And sometimes if you flip that around to ask yourself, like as a parent, like, am I doing my best?
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel like your best isn't enough. All you can do is your best. Like that's it. Like, and you're gonna have more energy for that some days and no energy for it the other days, and that's okay. You can use the term like give yourself some grace
Yeah.
to doing that, but like in the end, I think did you do your best? And sometimes it won't feel like you did, and you'll get really frustrated. And I think of the like Dr. Seuss book, like the Will You Succeed,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that is uh that one, I mean, read that to yourself as
Yeah.
a parent,
Yes.
like forget a kid being there.
Yeah.
Like there's some wisdom in those words of like, man, you're gonna hit hurdles,
Yep.
and you just gotta keep going.
Yeah. That's all we can do is just keep going, one foot in front of the other, and you start
Yeah,
fresh every day, right? And try to just do the best you can. Um,
yeah.
you know, this is a small team here at JGA, right? Our team is small but mighty, and we always pride ourselves on saying we're never going to say no to anything, right? We just, sure, we can do that. Yeah, you want to do that? Sure, we can do that too. Whatever that is, we just try to do everything because it benefits this community. And one day you reached out and you said, "Hey, I have some time, I have some capability, and I have this thing I want to do." And you have created this incredible outreach and advocacy program that is going to be launching here coming up. Why? I mean, I have so many questions about it, but why was it so important, first of all, for you to get involved? Because we have a lot of families who are joining us. They check in on the Facebook page, they do things, but they don't necessarily say, "Hey, I want to do X. Let me do this."
Well, I think part of it was time, right? I had the good fortune of having some time.
Yep.
I also have a really hard time sitting still generally. Um, and so, I feel really thankful for the support and help that other parents that JGA has provided. And I felt like it was, if I can help, like, why not?
Yeah.
Um, and in the end, like, we were fortunate in a few ways. We got Ollie's diagnosis when he was young, and it didn't take us that long.
Yeah.
Like all in all, a little less than a year, right? Which feels like a long time, but still isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. I think if you do research, it's like the average diagnosis can take over 4 years in the rare disease space. There are typically over 3 misdiagnoses per child.
Yeah.
So, going back to the fact that we were able to get Ollie into therapies so early, when you're doing therapies and you're like, how in the world is this helping? Like, really?
Oh,
Like, you really like, because they're so little
yeah.
and they're doing such little things, but they're needed.
They're those inch
But they're
stones.
needed
It's just the
because
inch
that's
by
right.
inch, you know, it's
That's right. It's the little things. And
yeah,
so I felt like it was just something that I hopefully can provide a little bit of help with. And in the end, the purpose is to because imagine if you're a clinician,
yeah,
a pediatrician, like you have to know so much, right? When there are 10,000 rare diseases in the world, you're not going to know likely any of them.
everything.
Like you may
Yeah,
know a handful because a
yeah,
patient may have it, but like for the most part, you're not. And so the more as technology improves to get things like sequencing of the genome to occur faster, for less money or covered by insurance or whatever it is, like
yeah,
these things can unlock a lot of answers to questions that prior, that most of them that went to school, this wasn't even an option.
mhm.
Like like in the grand scheme, we just recently
Yeah,
mapped the human genome, you know?
yes.
Um,
And
and
when it
so I
was
think
being
part of that
done
is education.
yeah, when it was being done just a couple years ago, it was cost prohibitive to so many. And now it's still cost prohibitive in a lot of ways, but it's getting better because there is that awareness that's out there. It's starting to become something that's more of a go-to rather than a last ditch effort, you know.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you're putting together. I know we're not, fully ready to roll it all out this moment, but talk a little bit in generalities about what you're doing.
Yeah, so we are trying to take an approach of eventually getting to like a crawl, walk, run.
Yeah,
So imagine you are a pediatrician's office, or you're somebody listening to this podcast, and you're like, well, cool, like, how can I help? Well, we want to talk to the pediatrician's offices. We want to ideally talk to the, call it kind of continuing education coordinator or individual that is responsible for making sure that their staff is up to date on the latest and greatest. Some of that is through very formal programs where they get credits, like accredited units
yeah,
towards their education, and some will be a little bit more informal, like what we're putting together. So you can imagine like a crawl approach is, hey, here's a one pager
hmm,
on some recommendations to try to, in parallel with your other testing, if you notice these types of developmental delays or behaviors, just don't forget that there is a chance that a sequence, your genome being sequenced, could get to an answer much quicker and for way less cost than CT scans and EEGs and all of these other things.
hmm,
The walk is that we would spend 10-15 minutes with them on a Zoom call or in person if we can get there,
yeah,
educating them on Jordan's, rare diseases in general, this idea of parallel pathing, the normal testing plus mapping the genome. The exome, I think
yeah,
is the
yeah, yeah,
correct kind of technical term. And then eventually, we think there's an environment where we could more formalize, um, almost like a deeper training for much bigger groups where they're
yeah,
exposed to more of these things. But we're realistic in that time is hard to come by because of all the things that's put on the shoulders of clinicians. And so we want to try and make it really targeted,
yeah.
very specific, and say, hey, you can look out for these symptoms. And then you can try to refer to neurology as fast as possible and try to get that exome sequenced very quickly
Yeah.
because it may lend some really good answers that you aren't able to get to any other way.
Yeah, it's so true, and it's so important because I mean, if you can shave off 6 months in the process, that's 6 months that you get back with full knowledge of how to help your child. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a tangible effort. It's something that can be implemented in doctors' offices across the country, and we hope eventually maybe around the world. But again, crawl, walk, run.
Yeah.
But it's so helpful and it's so important. And we're really grateful that you decided to step up and take this effort as your own.
Yeah. Of course. Well, hopefully it helps a little bit. And the other benefit that I see of this is that how many kids are we at, or folks are we at now in the PPP group? Is it 250?
400 plus.
400? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I feel like
Yeah.
we spiked up.
We
So that's
did. It's
incredible.
amazing. We have like these weeks where all of a sudden we've added like, a whole bunch more. So
That's amazing. And what, I don't, I'm going to get the exact numbers wrong, but I think the estimates are that there are in the hundreds of thousands, right, globally,
yeah.
that have Jordans, have some one of the PPP gene, um, um, conditions. And the more that we identify, the better it is for so many reasons, right? Because
Yes.
all of a sudden this problem becomes more applicable to be solved by more people.
Yep.
It allows for more clinical data, family history data, and all these things that ultimately helps the research, helps the funding, helps all of the things that are so critical to helping these kids and all of those in the future. And I think
Yes.
we, the thing for us that's helped us is and I don't know if this is the right strategy, like we don't think too far ahead
Mhm.
because we don't know what exactly 5 years from now will hold for
Mhm.
Ollie. And so we try and really manage as best we can in the near term and focus there. There's a little bit of long-term thought, but like really focus on the near term, which is
Yep.
super helpful, and leverage that so that if in the future there is a treatment or therapy or something option, we can make an educated decision because it may not be available for him, but that doesn't mean we can't be part of helping somebody else.
Yep.
And that's a responsibility that I think we all, can take to make for a better outcome for these kids.
Are you looking forward to clinical trials? Is it daunting in any way, or is it more like bring it on? Let's hear what we can, how this is going to go.
I mean, look, I think a part of me, like most, would be like cautiously optimistic. Um, Again, I don't. We are in the position, fortunately, where Ollie's symptoms are like it's going to be hard for us depending on the treatment route
Mhm.
if we get to that opportunity to be able to say, does it make sense, risk reward, to do these things, right? Whether it's a treatment or longer term gene editing, like
Yeah, yeah.
whatever that equation is, like um I'm excited to and so grateful for those that will be kind of on the leading edge, right? Like trying, like being in those clinical trials early, to see what the benefits are. So yes, I am excited, cautiously,
Yes.
and keep. I mean, it's amazing. There's advancements happening in the broader space left and right. And once you start to dig in, you can go down a lot of
Yes.
very exciting, rabbit holes of information
I
as to
mean, you
what's
really
what's
it's
occurring.
it's amazing to see how much growth has happened, not only here with our team, and our unbelievable research team, but in like you said, I mean, across the rare disease space, every day there are people fighting for change and fighting for more and trying to change the whole landscape of this. So, I mean, if we know what we have done in a short amount of time, it's amazing what all these other groups are still doing too. And so, there's a lot of really promising work happening on so many levels right now. That's
Yeah,
exciting for all of our families. I mean, I think it's so important to look like long term at the whole landscape and go, wow, like what? This is amazing. So it's pretty great. And we're lucky to be on the forefront of that here at JGA too. I know you guys are going to miss conference, and I'm so bummed we're not going to see your faces this time, although you'll be there in spirit. But for our families who have not been, because there are a lot of newbies coming this time, what is your main message for them?
oh man, um just dive in, like just dive in. And some people, I've said this already, like some people are more comfortable than others just opening up and getting to know people, but like make these connections, force yourself into a place of discomfort. I think
Mhm.
that's where growth can occur. Be curious. There are people there that have lots of insight. Again, the thing too, that every situation is different,
Mhm.
so take it with a grain of salt. You're going to hear some great stories, some sad stories, some really hard stories, like everything in between. And those may or may not apply to you. They still will help educate you on what the community is working through, and you'll be able to pull from that, maybe not immediately, but in the future. So just jump into the deep end, recognize that it is a very loving and caring community. We are sad. We've been to the last two. We're going to be in Europe, go visiting family, which
Yeah.
is an experience I'm excited to share with my kids as I go back to Belgium.
No, it's going to be wonderful. You guys are going to have such a great time, but we will miss you. We are so sad you're not going to be there. But next time, when we do this again,
Deal.
next time, we'll hope to see you then. But and I guess I don't want to keep you forever, although I could ask you a million questions, but um your hope for Ollie and for the our all of our kids here at JGA, what's your hope for them for the future?
You should have had me think about this answer
No,
beforehand.
that's no fun. Come
I
on.
know, I
Yeah,
know, I know. Now I'm stalling to try and come up with
I
that.
know.
Look, I it's gonna sound super cliche, but like I just wish happiness. Like I just wish that to whatever degree they can find a place,
Mhm.
a place where they can be happy, a place where they can be comfortable in themselves. Um, because the reality is they're going to be different
Mhm.
than 99.999% of the other kids around them. And
Yep.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so my hope is that they can, they can, through our support, through JGA support, through their own growth, that they can find that happiness, and be themselves.
Yeah, I love it. And just in closing, because we have sucked you into the JGA team here, which once you arrive, you can never leave. So for other families who are out there thinking like, oh, I'd like to help, or I'd like to do a fundraiser, or I would like to, I don't know what your heart is feeling, but what's your message to them? Because we're like, yes, come and help and please,
Yeah.
we love having you. So what's your message to them before I let you go?
Well, do it. Like channel your Nike, just do it. Right. I don't know what I'm doing in this space. I'm figuring it out. Right. I'm trying to help as best I can. I don't know how big of an impact I can make, but that's okay. So again, when you have the energy in between lots of moments
We
where
know.
you are don't have the energy, because it's hard, everything's a little bit harder, um, just give it a go, right? And like, to your point, if it's fundraising at a lemonade stand, or if it's reaching out to your pediatrician and saying, hey, can I talk to whoever's there, and then send them my way, right? Send them over to to JGA, and we'll see if we can kind of help to evangelize the merits of, again, early referrals to the neurologist, earlier testing to get their exome sequenced, etc. Just do it.
Do it. I love it. It's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with us today. I love hearing everyone's stories and advice because I just feel like if all of our families take the time to listen to each other, they're going to pull something out of it. It's something will resonate and it's just so great. So thank you. And thanks for all your time and efforts and we're really really grateful to have you and excited about where this is all going. So um thank you. Thank you. Say hi to Julie and the boys, please.
I
And
will, Christina. Thank you
we,
very much.
we
I
hope
appreciate it.
we'll have you again.
That
All
sounds good.
right.
Well, you should bring Julie on. I'm probably out of any interesting nuggets of wisdom to share.
We'll bring her too. That would be great. We
Okay,
would love it. For
sounds
all of
good.
you who are listening and who have not heard some of our other podcasts, check them out. They're anywhere podcasts can be listened to. They're also on our website, jordansguardianangels.org, and on YouTube for our international families for translation services too. So plenty of opportunities to listen. We'd love to have you. We're on our fourth season now. Is that right? Fourth season. So there's so many and there's lots of different things. You'll find something you want to listen to there. So thank you again, Niels. I appreciate you very much. And we'll see all of you guys very soon.